I'm Jim Moran, Director of Outreach here at the American Antiquarian Society, and I want to share with you one of the great treasures of the American Antiquarian Society. It is this copperplate engraving by Paul Revere of the Boston Massacre. Let's take a closer look at this. This is a copperplate engraving, and it is hand-colored by a man by the name of Christian Remick. This was created 3 weeks after the event, and of course the event is the Boston Massacre. Underneath is also some lines of poetry that were written by Paul Revere himself. This is probably one of the most famous images in American history. It was widely distributed during 1770 and throughout the years following the event that is depicted. It is an image that many people recognize because it's been reproduced in textbooks and in other images. While it is incredibly famous, it is also very inaccurate. As you can see, this is a street scene of Boston. We can see the old State House here. We can see the old Custom House here. And in this image, there's also a placard on the Customs House that says Butcher's Hall here. There is a quarter moon indicating that this takes place at night. And the main image on the bottom has a series of people, including a number of British regulars that are all firing towards the left into a group of people here, some of whom are on the ground bleeding, some of whom are wounded. There is at least one woman in this image. There's a dog down in the bottom of this image, and the dog is facing towards the firing soldiers. There are a number of inaccuracies to this. First of all, the most egregious, perhaps, is that these soldiers are lined up, and Captain Preston, the commander of the troops, is clearly giving the command to fire. This didn't happen in the actual Boston Massacre. There is also an indication in the Customs House of someone firing a musket out of one of the second-story windows. Again, that did not happen on March 5th, 1770. These people here are the townspeople that indeed were wounded. There were 5 people who died in the actual Boston Massacre and another 6 that were wounded. But all of these people are, for the most part, look like they're upper middle class or middle class, when in fact the Boston Massacre was something that happened with low-class dock workers, mostly young men. And they were very much instigating this incident. They started actually by taunting one sentry, throwing snowballs at that sentry. Preston, the guard on duty, Captain Preston brought other soldiers in to reinforce that one sentry, but there were only 8 soldiers in total there. There was a great deal of confusion. This was really a snowball fight that got out of hand. And in getting out of hand, at one point, one of the soldiers discharged his rifle, his musket rather, and in fact, there was someone evidently yelled fire, but no one knows exactly who did that. Preston claimed that he never did call for his soldiers to fire into the crowd. In fact, he was trying to keep them from discharging their weapons. This is a great piece of propaganda. It may be the greatest piece of propaganda created in American history. It articulated a Whig narrative of that is something that was articulated by the Whigs from 1765 through 1776. And that narrative is basically one of we are loyal, peace-loving subjects of His Majesty, and we are trying to be loyal, peace-loving subjects of His Majesty, but we are being abused by our government. Rather than showing the confusion of a riot, it shows the members of His Majesty's 29th Regiment lined up in battle formation, firing into a crowd of unarmed citizens. These people are not instigating a fight in any way. In fact, they are cowering from the violence. They're trying to take care of their wounded and their dead. They are all people of upstanding middle-class clothing. There's also another image that places front and center one of the people that seems to be missing from Paul Revere's image of the people who are wounded here. And that's Crispus Attucks. There is no person here who is black. And there's probably a very good reason why Paul Revere chose not to use this image of Crispus Attucks. These people are very genteel. They are not the working class that John Adams called a motley rabble of saucy boys, Negroes, and mulattoes, Irish teagues, and outlandish jackdaws. And of course, one of the most outstanding pieces of this image is this dog that's in the forefront. That seems very strange that this dog would be standing there in the midst of all of this chaos and violence. People have speculated on various reasons why Revere put it in this image. One is maybe to be accurate. In fact, there was evidence that one of the victims of the Boston Massacre was walking his dog at the time of the outbreak of the riot. Another one is that Revere may be trying to say that the relationship between the colonies and Great Britain is going to the dogs, literally. But more than likely, Revere was well aware that in the 18th century, dogs were a symbol of fidelity and loyalty. And I think he put it in here because he wanted to, again, reinforce the narrative that we are loyal subjects of his king being abused by the regulars. And notice the dog is also, again, pointing towards the soldiers and towards the customs house and the authority of Great Britain in Boston. I also want to come back here to this whole business about Butcher's Hall. There's a clear sign here that says Butcher's Hall that was put over the Customs House sign that was evident initially. That never happened. This is an invention of Revere's himself. It was never called Butcher's Hall directly. Also, there is an indication, again, as I mentioned, of somebody firing a musket from the second-story window of this building. Again, that's a complete falsity. There was some evidence in the trials, the later trials, that there could have been somebody firing a musket, but in fact, that proved to be false. Revere is also likely trying to tie in the customs officials to this act because there were many people in Boston, including John Hancock, who wanted to diminish and attack the customs officials because they were interfering with their business. So these are clear falsities. These are not in any way accurate to the events at the time, but they are accurate to what the Whigs were trying to convey. They're accurate to the emotions and to the opinions of the people at the time. And that's why this image is so powerful to us. Primary sources are not necessarily accurate or historically truthful. And we shouldn't look at any primary source necessarily for their accuracy to the historical event. We should look rather at them as a window into the way people were thinking and feeling at the time. This is clearly a primary source. We're not entirely sure whether Revere was present at the Boston Massacre or not. We don't actually know what he was doing that night. But this image was created within 3 weeks of the event itself. And it clearly represents the feelings and thoughts of people at the time.